I have a brand new Next.js project running in my browser. I'm using Visual Studio Code Editor. I'll start by creating the static metadata. If you navigate to the browser and study or look at this tab title, it's saying create next app. And if I inspect the page, let me just expand this. Then I go to the head section. I'll move to the meta description and the title. So the title is saying create next app, and that is what we have here. Then the meta description is generated by create next app. Inside our app directory, we have our page, which displays all the content that we have in this browser. And then we have a layout.js file, and in this layout.js file we have the meta description. So we have a variable here known as metadata being exported. It's a named variable, and this is an object. So this object has the keys, and these keys represent the metadata that you may want to pass in your pages. So right now we have two described here. That is the title, which is create next app, and that's what you saw in the browser. And we have the description, which is generated by create next app, and that is also what I showed you in the browser. So we're going to create our own page and see how we can configure the metadata in this page. So I'll just come to this app directory, or in the root of app directory, and create a folder. I'm going to call it about. So let me do that. Then I'll create page.js inside this. I'll just create a functional component and export it. So I have Tailwind installed in the project, so I'll be free to use the Tailwind classes. I'll just do a little bit of styling here by giving this a minimum height of a screen, like that. Then I'll have an H1 here that says about page. Like that. I want everything to lie at the center of my page. So let me navigate to about and see if the changes are visible already. So the about page is visible, but the content is very tiny. So I'm just going to enlarge my text here by just passing a class name. And I want the text to be 3XL. 3XL, that is the text, of course. 3XL, yeah, like that. Then I'll have the items at the center and justify content center also. So if I go back, this should reflect. The justify will only work if we have a flex display. Yeah, so this is our about page. But you realize that the title of the tab is still saying create next app, and even the description in the head section is still saying generated by create next app, and we want to change that. So to change that, we simply come to the root, or in the same directory where our page is, which is our about section. So the about page is this one here. So in this about directory, we create a layout.js file. So layout.js, because I'm using just normal JavaScript, I'm not using TypeScript. So to be able to describe our metadata for these pages, we'll just copy what we have in the layout of our route, that is for all the pages, and paste it here. Then change a few things. I'm just going to close it. So I'll just pass a React fragment. I don't need this HTML. I'll even remove the body. And I'll remove the importation of the CSS and the font. That's not going to affect anything here. Then we can change this title to about, and we can also change the description. Let's say this is about page, like that. So if I save this and go back to the browser, it changed already. See the tab title. The tab title is about, and in the inspection section, the description is saying this is about page. Yeah. So this is how we can configure the static metadata, and there is a lot of static metadata that you can pass in your Next.js pages, depending on the or with the requirements of your page. So if we go to the next documentation and search for metadata, it's going to give us a lot of information, a lot of information. You'll need quite a lot of time to at least read this documentation and understand it. But I'm giving you the easiest and the best way to implement this in your project. So this is what we just used, but for their case, they are doing everything within the page.js or TSX, depending on whether you're using JavaScript or TypeScript. But the problem with this is that you're not going to write any client-side code here, because by default, the metadata component works with the server-side components. That's why I'm separating them, so that if you wish to write any client-side code here, like you want to use the hooks, it will be easier because you'll not be having the metadata component being exported in your page.js. Okay, so I wanted to show you that you can pass quite a number of types of metadata. So we have the title and description, but there are more than that. So if you click on, let me just go back. If you click on API reference, then on your right navigation, go downwards to basic fields, you'll be able to see a number of them being used and how you can use them. So like we can pass something like a publisher. Let me just copy this and pass it here as a key, sorry. And I say that the publisher is a Luku Godric, and save that. If I go to my page, you'll find that we have that data known as publisher, and the content is a Luku Godric, you see. So if you want like to configure the form data detection, you want to configure the authors, the keywords, the referrer, and a lot of them, then you can refer to this. So I'm just giving you the basics. Let's move to how we can now configure the dynamic. Assuming that you're working on maybe an e-commerce site and you're fetching products from an API, and probably you have a product page and you want more details about that product, and if you navigate to that product page, you want the title of your tab to be the name of the product that you've fetched. How do you do that? So we are going to fetch data from fake API. So just navigate to your browser and search for fake store API. And I'm also going to leave the link in the description of this video. So this fake API gives us a number of resources. The main ones are products, cart, users, and login token. So we are interested in fetching a single product depending on the ID of the product, and this is the route that we are going to follow. And then to be able to make the API calls, I'll be using Axios to do that. So I have to install the Axios library. So npm install Axios. That as this is being installed, I'll go ahead and create my dynamic page that is going to represent each product. So in the app directory, I'll just create a product. Then I'll depend on the ID of the product, so I have to create that dynamic route with the ID. Then let's have now this should be a folder, not a file. So I'll go to product and create a folder known as ID inside the square brackets. Then here we can now have a file known as a page.js for our pages. So the Axios is installed already. I'll just navigate back to the main terminal that is running the application. So inside the page.js, I'll create a functional component and export it, then save it. Then I'll go back to the browser and access that page. So product. Then I'll start with an ID of 1 because it's going to be dynamic. Now when we access this page, I know it has that bad, styling. We can fix that by just giving this a class name, that height. Let's give it a height of screen, and I'll also give it flex because I want everything to be at the center, just like the about page. So justify center and item center, like that. Then I'll also want to increase the size of my text, so I'll just pass like 3XL. Then if I go back, this is what we have. So our pages are working. I'm also going to access the parameters or the params of the dynamic page, so I have to pass the params. And then I'll create a constant here to represent my ID because we are going to depend on the ID of each product. So I'll just destructure this and equate it to our params, like that. Then I can even log it out, see what I get. So log ID and save it. Right now this is like a server-side component. That's why we have the console log being displayed here. We can use the client here by passing this flag. So use client and save it. If I go to the browser and log, you can see 1 is displayed here. Yeah, we have 1, which is the ID that I'm passing. So I can change it to 6 maybe and try to access it. And there we have 6. We have 6 here. Good. Then we now need to fetch some products using the Axios library, but we are interested in updating our page. Then we shall need to create the layout because we need the title of our page to change dynamically. So we shall need to create some layout.js. So if you navigate to the next documentation, and search for dynamic routes. It gives us a lot of information on how we can generate not routes but dynamic metadata. Sorry for that. So please search for dynamic metadata. This one here. So for you to use the dynamic metadata, we have to export this component or function, the generate metadata function, asynchronous of course, and they are combining this with your page. That's why they are also exporting this function known as params and such params like that. But for our case, it's going to be separate files, so I'll just create the layout here. So I'll create layout.js, then I'll just copy what they have for JavaScript like that, then paste it here. Then I'm going to trim what we don't need, like this one here, we don't need it. Then we also don't need this, but we need to export some default functions. So I'll just go to this section here because we need to access our children. So I'll copy that and paste it here. And then you don't need to name it to root layout. You can just call it layout like that and save. So if you save this, yeah, it should work. Yeah, there is an error because they are fetching data from an API that is not even there. So we need to change this to Axios. So I'll just clear everything here and change this to Axios. Then we need the backticks here because we are going to use some variables. We need dynamic ID. So let's do that. So it's Axios, not await. So if I go back to the fake API, I'll just copy this URL. Then I'll come here and pass it here as our URL. It is axios.get. Let's use the get method. Then I need the ID to be dynamic, so I'll remove the one. Then pass this $sign and pass our ID there, so that even if it changes, then we shall be able to fetch the appropriate product. And then we are interested with the title right now. I'll just remove that, and we'll also update the data there. So for Axios, whatever we are going to fetch, it's going to be product.data because the product is going to be an object. So to access the data, it should be product.data. Then if you look at this object JSON, we have the ID, title, and we have the description, the image, and all that. We are interested with the title of the product because that is what we want to display as the title of our tab. So I'll just pass the title, then save it. There should be no errors in the browser now. Yeah, it's gone. And we still have 6 being logged here. We can go ahead and log something else. That is for our page. Let me just close some pages, like about, we don't need it, and layout for the about, we don't need it, like that. So we don't even need to log the product. We just need to check it on the browser and see if this is, yeah, it is. Solid gold petite micropave. That is the product that is of ID 6. Even if I go to the fake API and pass 6 here, and you can see it is solid gold petite micropave. That is the product that is being fetched. Good. Then we can also change this to something else, like say 7, and see the product. You'll see the title changing. Yeah, white gold plated princess. So that is how you can do this. This is how you can change the dynamic, or configure the dynamic metadata on your pages. You can go to maybe description and also update that dynamically. So we just pass description. The spelling should be correct. Description, that is not the correct spelling. Description, and that. And for the description is going to be product.data dot description. And if I save that and I go to the elements and inspect the header, the description is here: classic, created, wedding, engagement, solitary. Yeah, a lot of description here. Let's just go to number 7 and see what we have. Yeah, classic, created, wedding, engagement. That is the same description that is being rendered here as our description. Where is it? The title is white gold plated princess, and the description is a classic, created, wedding, engagement. So during your free time you can explore more about this, but these are the basics just to get you started in your configuring the metadata in your product. I think that is all I have for this video. Thank you for watching. See you next time.